He opened the gate and walked down the path, but when he got to the house, he saw the door was open. He raced inside, and when his eyes adjusted to the darkness of the room, he couldn't believe what he saw. Today, there are two true stories from Manchester's past that are filed away under extraordinary deaths. I hope you share your thoughts with me on the first one, as it's a bit of a mystery. Anyway, here are the stories. It was Saturday, 16th of March, 1901, and he sat there, head bowed, listening, just listening to the facts being read to the room about this old lady, a member of his family. The Manchester City coroner was holding an inquest concerning the extraordinary death of Lavinia Farrar, a 72-year-old woman who lived in a large house in Plymouth Grove, Longsight. The evidence that had been presented was to the effect that the old lady was blind. She was well off by independent means, and that she was of eccentric habits. The court had also been informed that Lavinia could not persuade a servant to stay with her for very long. They never offered an explanation, and the money was good. But the rumour was it was something to do with the house. If it was someone or something, the court did not know. But the fact was, for the most part, Lavinia scarcely had anyone with her in the house, leaving her to roam from room to room alone. A relative, who conducted her correspondence for her, paid a visit to the house. And just then, he heard a man call him by name. The room fell silent. He heard the seats creak as people strained for a better view as he walked to the front of the room. "Sir, please tell us what occurred on Thursday evening on the 14th of March. "Well, I was walking down the road. I was fetching letters to her, like I often do. I swung open the gate and walked up the garden path." "Yes?" "But when I got close to the house, I noticed something was off." "How do you mean, off?" "Well, when I got close, I discovered the door had been forced. The wood was broken around the lock. The house, it was cold and quiet." He looked down at his hands. "Sir, I'm sorry, but can you tell the room what you saw next?" I called out to her, and I went down the hallway. I looked through into the different rooms, but there was no sign of Lavinia. But when I reached the kitchen, I saw her on the ground. I knew she was dead." And with that, he was told that was all, and he could step down. And the coroner was called. And he stated that the old lady had been found dead on the kitchen floor, face bruised, and her nose had been broken. He then paused, and he said, in all his years, what he was about to reveal next, he had never seen or heard of before. Near the body was a blood-stained corn knife, and there was drops of blood on the floor as if someone was walking away. But there was no blood on the body, and there was no stab wound that could be seen. This puzzled the officers. They went searching the house for another body, but they found nothing. The lady was smartly dressed and had 4 layers of clothing, which they slowly removed, and still no wound could be found on the body, until the last of her clothing was removed. A single stab wound straight to the heart, apparently having been inflicted with the corn knife, which was found beside her. The clothing was checked, and there was no cut or puncture marks on any of the items of clothing or the bodice, removing any suspicion that the knife had penetrated it. However, it had been noticed that the clothing had been stitched up and fastened in a peculiar way, but he thought maybe due to the fact the woman was blind, it was the best that she could do. And the medical evidence led to the opinion that from the appearance of the wound and the strange arrangement of the clothes, that the wound could not have been self-inflicted. The woman could not have undressed, stabbed herself, and then got dressed putting on all 4 layers, because death had come to her almost instantly. He also said to the court, a knife could not have been inserted through the openings in the garment. She had to have been stabbed without the clothes. The coroner also said it seemed that the blood had not come from the woman's wound. This wound was almost bloodless. Only one of her garments, the innermost, was blood-stained, and that was only slightly. There was no blood under the body, and there had been no robbery, and there was no signs of struggle apart from the damage to her face, which he said might have come from her falling to the floor. The police were unable to find any evidence. They found no witnesses or motives. The jury returned an open verdict, and to this day, no one has any idea what happened to Lavinia Farrer. On Monday, the 25th of September, 1893, Mrs. Edwards had just arrived in the booming industrial city of Manchester. She had travelled by an excursion train from Machynlleth in North Wales. She spent the day seeing the city and shopping. When she got back to the railway station that evening to wait for the homeward bound train, she was seized with a fainting fit. When she fell to the ground, people rushed to her aid. But she had fallen that violently, she swallowed her false teeth. She was rushed to the nearby Manchester infirmary, and a doctor was already trying to aid her before she arrived. But sadly, all efforts to remove the obstruction proved unsuccessful, and she died the morning, Wednesday the 27th of September, 1893. Well, that'll about do it. There are so many strange and extraordinary deaths in Manchester, but I chose these 2 as I thought they were a bit different. Please let me know your thoughts on the first story, as that is a bit strange, as the lack of blood and the dressing of the body indicates the crime scene was somewhere else, and the killer knew what they were doing and they had time to do it. For me, this indicates they had done it before. Potentially, it's an unknown serial killer lurking in the Manchester past. But let me know what you think. And if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really helps my channel grow. That'll about do it. Take care.